at the bar, on the beach, in a tent. Then we hear disturbing reports about a very eerie phone call made by Florence that night. Listen.
Nome PD also follows up with the man who gave Blair some of Florence's clothing. The man gives cops the same story of finding her belongings outside his tent and turns over one more item, Florence's cell phone. Law enforcement never publicly divulges if anything found on the phone provided new leads, but according to a local with friends on the search and rescue team, Florence made a troubling call to a friend that night, saying, quote, "I'm in the bushes with some people. They're passing something around, and I don't feel safe."
With me, close friend of Florence's, her confidant, Delilah Johnson, author of One of Our Own. Delilah, thank you for being with us. What do you know about this phone call made by Florence?
That it's terrifying, that it does kind of provide more than just speculation on what maybe had occurred that evening.
To Payne Lindsey, who has been investigating Florence's disappearance. Payne, what do we know about the call? Who did she call, and how do you decipher what she said?
She was clearly scared. She was in a state of distress, and she names being with multiple individuals. Now, I know these people's names. I have not publicly stated all of them because some of them I'm still talking to. But collectively here, you have a group of men who were the last people to see Florence alive, and then she simply vanishes. These people need to be questioned by law enforcement. The fact that they haven't been is ridiculous.
Payne, it's like the Tara Grinstead case all over again. What can you tell me about another conflicting story, Payne? A story that another witness states that Florence was with his neighbor the night before, driving on the beach on an ATV, all-terrain vehicle. And then the witness sees the neighbor returning, and Florence wasn't there. It was just the neighbor.
Bottom line is, you can sit here and look at all the different conflicting stories and theories. When you whittle it all down, which I've done my best to do here, what stays true is that she was at the bar, then she left and went to West Beach, no matter how she got there, and she has never been seen since then. If her body is
Do
not
you
on
believe
West
those
Beach,
witnesses, Payne? Do you
I
believe the witnesses
believe
that place
that the
her?
timing of everything may not be perfect, right? I think that the bottom line is she was there. There's physical evidence that she was there. Her stuff is there. So
Her
we know
clothes
for a fact that
and her
she
cell
was there
phone.
and people saw her. Correct. And it was outside of a specific tent, not just any tent. We know whose tent it was. Why do you have her stuff? I don't have any missing person's stuff outside of my tent.
Payne Lindsey, in addition to the time that the local LE, I guess the sheriff, didn't show up for an interview, it's an eerie reminder for me, the Natalie Holloway case. Beth Twitty and I went back, as you know, to Aruba to try to scare up some more leads. And it was there. We drove by a structure, Payne, and she said, yeah, I sat in there for 5 hours waiting to speak to the chief of police. They told me he was at the barber shop. They told me this. They told me that. After 5 hours, he walks out, not realizing she's still sitting there, rubbing his stomach because they had just brought him food. So he wouldn't have to see her. He ate in his office and then ran into her. I mean, that sounds like what's happening now with them ducking you. As a matter of fact, you're not the only one he's ducking. Listen, Payne.
Months into the search for Florence Okpialuk, her best friend Delilah and sister Blair hold a march for missing and murdered Indigenous people through downtown Nome, ending in a local gymnasium for several speakers to highlight their loved ones. While Blair speaks, expressing concern for the lack of police investigation through heart-wrenching sobs, the Nome PD chief makes an appearance, shocking the crowd. But the chief isn't there for the event. He calmly walks past the crowd to the gym equipment for his workout.
Gianna Johnson, tell me what happened.
You know, it's it's already a challenging time because we are having to honor those that aren't with us anymore. And a lot of the time, there's a lot of systemic injustice. But when we were specifically honoring Jean Florence Okpialek, and then we also noticed that the chief is there for a workout. That was also just heart wrenching for us because we would love to have the entire community, all law enforcement, search and rescue, all community leaders, all people within the community come together because it's an isolated area. And so if we can all help one another and support one another, I think there would be better relationships, and the lack of trust probably wouldn't be such a stain on the community members.
Payne and Lindsey, I'm just having a horrible time understanding the sheriff while family and friends are out there bringing awareness to Florence's disappearance. He walks up like he's going to the vigil and then just keeps walking and goes to the gym to work out.
I mean, come on, bro. Even if giving him the benefit of the doubt, that is just the biggest lack of awareness I've ever seen. Clearly, you do not care about this case. Clearly, if you didn't know this was happening, you're not actively investigating it. All that tells me is that hand over the damn case file then, because you're not doing anything about it and you're comfortable being rude in public and sending this strange message to people who are fighting for justice right here out in the open in your own town.
Who is this so-called Oregon John, his moniker, that was last seen with Florence? Well, this is what we've learned about him.
It turns out Oregon John has 93 arrests in Nome. The charges include everything from disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, harassment, probation violation, and cruelty to animals to thefts, assaults, and 2. Oregon John appears to be very dangerous, and with John having Florence's socks, shoes, jacket, and cell phone, he may very well be the last person to see her.
Payne Lindsey joining us, who has spent so many months investigating Florence's disappearance. Where is he now?
I know exactly where he is. I'm not going to say it on live air right now because mostly because you have a lot of listeners and viewers, and so do I. I don't want the Good Samaritans to go spook this guy anymore. But I'm in communication with him, and I have uh, maintained that he has questions that need answers, and everything points back to Oregon John. You can dive down a million rabbit holes, but you must explain why he had her things. And look at who we're talking about here: 93 different offenses, cruelty to animals. These aren't petty offenses. This paints a character of somebody who is dangerous.